Hello, baby. Well, I think that's enough sloppy toppy for MJ to edit around.
We doing sloppy toppy this episode?
Hell, dude, when are we not getting sloppy toppy?
Man,
You know
I
what I'm
guess I
saying?
didn't look at the outline. Is the
You
podcast
should.
like what? How is the podcast like? Are they giving it to me for free?
They should absolutely give. I mean, when I'm
The
president,
podcast
actually,
society,
yeah, when I'm president, I am gonna give everyone sloppy toppy.
and that's my promise as president.
Yeah,
Let me be
every.
clear.
Let me be clear. Everyone will be getting sloppy toppy. You know, I'm waiting for the day when someone goes like,
Folks,
after.
toppy is the most sloppy.
So does my weird like southern thing in the beginning make it like, is that my Biden impression?
That's your. Hey, I'm Joe Biden over
I'm
here.
I'm Joe Biden. This here's the wildest ride in the
I'm
wilderness.
Joe Biden from Alabama.
My
What if
name
Joe
is Gus Chiggins.
if Joe Biden was from
CHI.
Alabama,
Yeah,
he'd be the most undefeatable politician yet. You know what I'm
I mean,
saying? Get that
imagine.
Southern vote?
That's true. He'd
Yeah.
he'd be the one to unite every state in one color.
So,
Blue is what I'm saying.
that's right.
I was gonna say, I'm waiting for the day that we record an episode like this, and then we someone goes, you know what I like about you guys? You guys are straightforward talkers, which doesn't. That's never happening, but I'd be like, oh man,
Uh,
just wait till they hear my episode about sloppy toppy.
yeah, with the Joe Biden. I'm riding with Biden if he's given slappy toppy.
Hell yeah, dude. Talk about the
Yeah.
White House. More like white. More like, because cum is
Yeah, I
kind of
get what
white.
you're
I don't
doing.
know.
I get what you're
Yeah,
doing with this.
yeah.
Kind
There
of
you
white.
go. Yeah, it's like, I mean, it depends what you're. Actually, does it change color depending
I
on
don't
what you're
think
eating
so.
and drinking?
You're thinking of like Super Mario Sunshine, like Yoshi.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. That
Yeah.
is what I'm talking about. I think you say that. No, it's more like piss.
It's more like piss. Yeah, piss changes color. And your piss every time I piss, it's a new color. It's like kind of fun.
Imagine like there. I mean, I'm sure there isn't, but there could
Yeah.
be. But a kid who thought that cum is just pee. And, like the guy's like, dude, I come like 5 times a day.
Feels so good.
Yeah, it feels great.
Yeah.
Um, God, I don't know how to transition out of this one. This is
No, we
awful. I
can't.
can't.
This is
No,
the
this is how it's
you kind
going.
of. I mean, you locked yourself into this with the with the
This is why
sloppy toppy
I
opener.
didn't make the improv team. And this
Well,
is
no,
this is
because
why.
you didn't make the improv team because you broke the number one rule. Yes,
Yeah,
and
don't say no.
yeah,
Um anyway, guys, welcome to Style and
welcome.
Direction, a menswear podcast without the stuffiness. I am Ethan M. Wong,
I'm Spencer DSO.
and MJ is our good and faithful producer. What's that from? Good
The
and
Bible,
faithful.
good and
Probably.
faithful servant.
Yeah, that makes sense. My good and
Yeah.
faithful servant. No, that's just like a movie or something where the guy's like, "This is my
I don't know. It probably came.
good and
I think that they were
faithful."
probably quoting the Bible first because that's.
Well,
I hate how often we talk about religion on this show, but that is a Bible verse.
I mean, technically, isn't everything quoting the Bible? Because
I
morality
mean,
doesn't exist outside of religion. Is
the
what I'm
Bible
saying.
was the first book written in English, and so every time you speak English, you're technically quoting the Bible, and that's a fact, Jack.
Jack who?
Jack. Uh, uh, Cruz.
Jack Cruz.
Yeah, it's Tom Cruise's brother.
What does he sound like?
Hey, I'm Jack Cruz. He sounds exactly the same.
Did you see before? I mean, I hate that we're going back into it, but speaking
Yeah.
of religion, I saw a video of like Dave. Is it who's the creepy director guy? Not super creepy, but he's like white. Everyone loves this guy. Kind of has like a nasally voice. He's like,
Oh,
I keep thinking it's not.
is I don't know, Spike Jones? He has a nasally
No, no,
voice.
not him. No, like the one
Okay.
who I'm thinking of David Byrne, but that's the singer, not the guy. Like what's his name?
Yeah.
He's like the 70s. He did like Twin Peaks. What the hell's that guy's
Oh,
name?
David Lynch.
David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, David Byrne. I mean, that's the same number of letters. But David Lynch was like, "Give it up for Jerry Seinfeld," and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And it's Transcendental Meditation Meeting, and it's Jerry Seinfeld, and I don't know how I just found that video finally, but
That's
like it just
great.
came on my feed.
That's pretty good.
Um, yeah, speaking of religion, right there.
Yeah.
TM. You think they got like a trademark for it? Like, hey, we're gonna TM.
I bet that's exactly what they said when they invented transcendental meditation.
Transcendental magic.
Magication.
That's what I like to hear. I love hearing about magic, which
Yeah,
is
me
why I'm
too.
watching Winning Time.
I
Check out
mean,
our bonus episode
that's why I'm
about that.
watching the Secrets of Dumbledore.
Oh, that's right. Which you'll hear this month. Oh no, it'll no, it'll have already come out by the time this comes out. So
Yeah,
go back and listen to that.
with the fact that we record these so far in advance, we can never make topical references because then it's like The Simpsons, where it takes it takes a year to come out. So by the time we make jokes about Tiger King 2 is already out there, and everybody's talking about that now.
Yeah, I
Everybody's
don't want
talking
I
about
don't
Tiger
want to
King
miss
2.
out. I have to watch these things as they come out. Um,
Exactly.
you think we're gonna have a book called The Philosophy of Sound Direction? I mean,
I think
that's kind of what the blog is technically.
yeah, we're
But
gonna
you
have a
know,
book called The Philosophy of Style Direction, written by a bunch of like community college philosophy professors.
yeah.
Um, and it's gonna be very good.
I mean, didn't we technically predicted um Space Jam 2, so you know
That's right, we did.
we gotta keep doing
We
that.
that's right, Bob. Just to remind everyone, we created an evil villain named Algorithm. I think
Yeah, that's
ours
right.
was Algorithm, but then the movie came out and it was Alg Rhythm. So we were
That's
so
right.
close.
Yeah. So just wait till see what else we can do, just like The Simpsons.
Yeah,
Um. Anyway, guys, we're gonna talk about menswear now. And today we're talking about the double-breasted jacket, the DB,
that's
for
right. The DB.
for some ST, sloppy toppy. Uh, and you can only, I mean, this jacket kind of like fucks, kind of.
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean,
It's so
if the
good.
jacket could,
Does that make the SBs kind of like a cuck? I mean, it kind of does, right? Because
I guess
this
it kind of does. Or
it's
just
the
like
Jason Clark of, of jack-
it's the Jason Clark of jackets, just in every role.
but yeah, no, I okay. So first off, I just want to say like I think the DB is like what got me into menswear.
Yeah,
Like
I mean
it's so good.
it's like very, I don't know, just looking at it, it's like so like it's obviously something like kind of elegant and fancy. Like even like in, I don't know, it's just one of those things where just in the cultural consciousness and like, you know, like cartoons or whatever, if you want to have a fancy character, if you draw them in like a double-breasted suit, like everyone gets it. Like fucking 4-year-olds understand.
And you could quote us on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I walk
So
into a kindergarten, they're like, "Wow, sir, you're so dapper. You look better than
exactly.
this guy wearing a single-breasted jacket. He's like the Jason Clark."
And they're like, yeah, you know, Jason Clark, he got cucked in Gatsby. He got, what other movie did he get cucked in? That's the only, I know he's got the one about the Serenity.
Now, yeah, he got cucked in Serenity.
Yeah,
Um, and that's too. That's it has to it only. Well, technically, it has to happen to you once for it to be for you to
does
get
he?
cucked.
Yeah, there's got to be more things. I don't know.
And,
Maybe
and and if you ask me, there should be. There
there
should
should
be
be.
more. There
Jason
should be more.
Clark, check your email. We sent you we sent you a couple scripts.
And it all involves you walking in and seeing your wife or whoever the
Yeah,
character you're playing calls for,
you're playing yourself in this.
and I'm doing your partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing ourselves. Your wife is playing
Speaking
herself.
speaking of Jason Clark, though, there is a
We're getting
video
off
of.
topic a lot.
Well, no.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back to menswear.
Okay.
He did get an Anglo-Italian
Oh, that's right.
tuxedo. Remember, he's
Yeah.
it's like a like he's on like the red carpet to I think promote Serenity. I think.
Oh man,
And they're
gotta
like,
watch
oh
that
yeah, what
again.
are you wearing? He's like, oh, I'm wearing he's Australian. Oh, I'm wearing this I'm making him New Zealand this tuxedo, and some of these guys called Anglo-Italian. Yeah, I'm making it way too New Zealand.
Yeah,
And he
that's
goes
Taika
like,
Waititi right there.
yeah, hey man. But yeah, little secret menswear guy right there. He also wore
Hmm.
opera pumps with that tuxedo. If you guys check it out, it's on the
Whoa.
Anglo-Italian Instagram. But the DB, I mean, hey, we'll talk about Anglo-Italian also. But the DB is like, yeah, it's such a great jacket. So if you don't know what we're talking about, fucking open a book. and then make sure it's a
Yeah,
picture
any
book that
book.
says, well, make sure it's a picture book so you can see it. Um, but it says it's like it's got overlapping closure. That's basically what it means, double breasted, because
Hmm.
it folds in on itself. There's two rows of buttons. Usually there's it can either be three. I mean, there's a lot of variations. There could be like four of them,
It
three
just as
rows,
long
two,
as
or even one.
as long as the fabric overlaps, you can do whatever you want over there.
Yeah, if you wear it, you have political immunity.
You have
You
political
can do whatever
immunity.
you
It's
want.
like being on the high seas.
Yeah, being a pirate. It's the pirates. It's the pirate of jackets.
Exactly.
Um,
And pirates wore these. If we'll get
I'm
into the naval history of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and there's usually those. So the buttons, because there's two rows. There's it feels the reason why it feels fancy to me sometimes, it's because there's more like decorative elements to it.
Hmm.
Obviously, like you have like, I mean, you could. I've seen it. There's like the double breasted where it's just the fastening button, so then you have like nothing on the other side, which you see a
But
lot
that
from like
looks weird.
designer stuff. I mean, hey, you don't knock it till you try it. I mean, I
Okay.
won't try it, so I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think the
but
charm of the double-breasted jacket is the kind of like fussy extra buttons, which I mean, if that's the we talk about how like 5-year-olds can look at a double-breasted jacket and say, "Oh, that's fancy." But I
yeah,
will say a lot of guys get, I mean, if you talk to any guy who doesn't wear a suit and explain to them buttoning rules, like people get mad about that, and I don't know why. But like people get like legit upset, and I've seen people get like really mad. It's like, why the fuck are these two buttons here on this double-breasted jacket if you don't even do anything? It's like there's no corresponding buttonhole.
I
And I
don't
don't
know
go,
why.
I don't,
Yeah, that's
it's
dumb.
always a baffling response when people get like mad about this. But
Yeah, menswear guys get mad. I mean, they're not even menswear guys. They're just like regular
they're
dudes
regular non-menswear guys.
and M's.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Muggles.
it's no match actually.
Yeah.
NMs. Yeah, there you go. Bring it back to Fantastic Beasts. And where to find them. But yeah, no, this is it's yeah, I like the feistiness of it. You have like the interior button too, so
Hmm.
that way the one that's being overlapped doesn't collapse. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it I mean some people don't do it. I remember one time I it's one of those things where menswear media is okay, but sometimes mainstream media is like kind of dumb where it's like there's like a GQ recent one where it's like 2022 is the best time ever to embrace a Canadian tuxedo, and I'm like, okay, like we've been doing this forever. And
Yeah.
I saw one where it's like the thing to do was to only fasten the inside one. I'm like, that's stupid, I'm
That
sorry, like
is
that's
dumb. That is really dumb. I've seen people do be like doing that recently though, and I don't get it.
yeah, it's weird. I don't I mean I'm like waiting to see it come on like on my TikTok to have
Well, because
someone
I don't know.
be
I
like,
feel
yeah,
like that's not, if you do that, you're that's not, why would you wear a double-breasted jacket? Like I don't know. Again, like the point of the double-breasted jacket is you either wear it open and you get that like really cool like effect of the wide lapels, the kind of like the I don't know, how do you describe it? The jacket that's kind of like folding in on itself, creating
yeah.
a mountain like tectonic plates.
Okay.
And then or when you have it when you have it like buttoned up, then you get the waist suppression, you get like the nice like angles,
You
the
get the
clean
lapel
lines.
line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
usually
And
it
when
goes
you
with like wide lapels, right?
yeah, and then
But
if you
not always.
but if you just have the inside one done, you don't get any of that. Like it's just awkward.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, again, we talk about having like no context fashion, and maybe too much no context is a bad thing.
Hmm.
We're still the centrists on this one. Um, but yeah, there's like I mean, there's just something about this jacket, and it's been around forever, right? There's a naval history.
Hmm.
It's I wrote down naval history. I don't really know the actual history of it, so you guys can
I
look up a
mean,
Gentleman's Gazette video or something.
yeah,
Uh,
it's like you could, I mean, you could see like, yeah, I mean, this is maybe like more for the like navy blazer, but yeah, you could
yeah, we
see
talked about it there.
um
It's the like the brass buttons and like the embroidery on like the sleeves and everything,
but I mean,
and
like double
yeah.
closure like jackets have been a thing for like a really long time. Like I made a joke about pirates earlier, but I'm pretty sure if you Google like illustrations of pirates, like you'll find someone wearing like a short, double-breasted jacket or something. Maybe it has like a weird collar or whatever. But
Oh yeah, I mean, like you think like early like what's pre-Edwardian? I
like
don't know,
18th century stuff.
yeah, because
Like you
like it closes up here, then has like the tail in the back, kind of a
mm-hmm.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's always looked cool to me. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, I think Marius, I think in some iterations of like of Les Mis has like a double breasted like coat or
I
whatever it
mean,
is.
yeah,
You
and
know?
then like something that I think is like I want to see like an avant-garde designer kind of take something like this, like, not do the weird just like inside buttons or no buttons, but like
Yeah,
the really old like military uniforms where it's like a double-breasted but it like buttons all the way up to like the shoulder.
yeah,
And so you see that on like really old naval jackets or like, I don't know, I think of like World War I like officers uniforms and stuff like that.
yeah.
And it's not something that it's definitely something like a lot more dramatic, but I think that cut is really cool.
It's I mean, technically, the DB kind of comes off as like a weird designer, like even though it's like it's still old,
Hmm.
it still comes off a bit designery, which is kind of why I like it. Like it's just so not to say that okay, not to say that like oh I like it because no one else wears it, but there's just something about these details that kind of make it feel like more than like a workhorse. And not that you
Hmm.
can't wear this as a workhorse, we'll get into that later, but the DB it does feel a little extra. It does feel maybe more formal, maybe more elegant,
Yeah,
maybe
because it's
more
not the
interesting.
default choice.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've always kind of been into it. It always comes off a bit rare because you don't see it like at H&M. I know J. Crew's had
Hmm.
like a version of it every like comes out every couple of years or so. But typically you don't see DBs very often out in the wild. I'm not sure exactly where that is. I mean, the big answer is like it just wasn't fashionable. Like after the 90s, you just guys really weren't wearing suits as much. Therefore, you didn't really need a DB. That probably
Hmm.
contributes to how like even you know in like movies like The Firm, which we talked about in the bonus episode, which is like 1989 or so, like early 90s or something like that. Like even Tom Cruise, the main guy, wears like an SB suit, but like his like superiors and like the bad guys are like wearing like DBs, and there's always been this. I mean, I think even if it's not stated outright, like the DB kind of just represents something.
Hmm.
um Again, it separates it separates characters from each other. I mean, even in Gatsby, like Meyer Wolfsheim wears a DB compared to like
That's
all the
right.
SB stuff, and,
Or
and Tom also, like
Tom
anyone
with the
anyone
worst
who's kind of
double-breasted
weird.
suit of all time.
Yeah, that's right. And then I remember even in Gangster Squad, which we talked about in our episode like 3 years ago, but I was reading in the costuming thing where they all the cops wear single-breasted suits and all the
Hmm.
bad guys wear DBs, and then Ryan Gosling, who is like apathetic, wears a DB for his couple of scenes until he joins the gangster squad after the fucking shoeshine kid gets killed.
That's
And then
right.
he starts wearing single-breasted and it's not even suits, right? Like they're wearing like the gangster squad wear
Sport
like
coats.
separates, yeah,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
the gangsters wear the DBs. And so for me, as someone who was always picking the stuff up like details wise, I'm like, well, DBs are where it's at because it was always characters that you just like. It's like rare. You just couldn't
Hmm.
like you like them, but you can't do it because it just wasn't anywhere.
And I mean,
And so that's why I like it.
the other thing with the DB is like I think that kind of like sets it apart is it's a lot harder to get like the fit right compared to just a
That's true. That's
single-breasted
true.
jacket. So it's like it's either something it's something that you have to put like more consideration into when like buying it or getting it tailored, or if you fancy getting it made. um but I think that contributes to it too, and maybe one of the reasons why you don't see it a whole lot at like just regular off the rack cheapo H&M whatever mall stores.
Yeah, it's because it's. I mean, not to make it seem like people can't get into it because I think everyone can wear it, but
Hmm.
you do have to take more stuff into consideration. Like I think a longer, like you can get away with a longer single-breasted jacket because that's kind of cool, right? But with a DB, because it's squared, it's got squared
Hmm.
off
And it
quarters.
covers up so much of you, like so much more.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit tricky, um, and it makes it hard to buy like DBs online if you can't
Hmm.
try it on. Like I try to not do that unless I've like worn something similar, or if I can like ask the guy to like measure it a lot. But yeah, it is a bit harder there. Um, and it's just but I feel like that makes it worth it. Like when you
Yeah.
find the right one, it's just so good.
No, exactly.
And to go back to what I was saying about how I got into menswear with it, like when you look back in history, the only time you really see a lot of guys just wear it are the 30s and 40s. Like that was so defining for me because I'm like, okay, if I can't get it from like the stores I go to, or even like, I guess I wasn't shopping on eBay, and I already knew that I wanted like the wide set buttons. You can see that in our proportion essay about like, how wide things have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I knew that like even thrifting I wouldn't get it because I knew like, okay, that's not an 80, like that's an 80s
Yeah.
that's an 80s one, not the one I wanted. And I remember when I like, after I watched Gangster Squad, I was like trying to find the SBs, and I went to Men's Warehouse. No, Joss A Bank. I went to Joss A
Huh.
Bank, and they had only one DB, and it was for a seersucker thing. And it's one of those things where it's unfortunate where maybe like even for J. Crew, like they didn't have like a plain DB. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
always like a weird fabric. Not a
Like
weird,
a.
like not weird, but like it was always like they play into the dandiness of it,
Mm-hmm.
and
I think
which is
we
why
had
it
like
kind of,
one like navy, just plain navy, but that was it.
yeah, it was like in cotton, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that one time. But yeah, I knew that I couldn't get what I wanted, and so I went to Men's Warehouse, and it was a little unfortunate that most DBs I see, even like at church, like some guys who in East LA who wear DBs, they're kind of more zoot suity because it's kind of like that's what people normally think of with
Yeah.
with DBs. It's like gangsters and stuff. So I obviously didn't buy the seersucker suit from Joss A Bank, but then I started getting into vintage that way because you just saw it more and it looked more like the ones I wanted. Um, there was one I got when I was in the Philippines, and it was a black wool odd jacket, which is crazy because it's like, why would they just have an odd jacket and like not a
Yeah.
suit or something? And I remember like wearing it to college, and this is before I even had a blog. This is when I was still like just posting like really shitty fits on Tumblr. Um, but I remember this art student guy that I was kind of friends with, and he was kind of like he was a little shit, He was a
Mm-hmm.
little bit
Little
critical, and he
stinker.
goes, "Yeah, a little stinker, little Allen Corp for you, um, total Allen." I remember talking about like, oh, I love the DB. I was like having this kind of conversation, and my friend Scott was into it, but that guy, the art student guy, was like, well, even if you wear it, doesn't mean you'll look 40s. Like the
Hmm.
cut is completely wrong, the details are wrong, and that has stuck with me ever since that conversation. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'm gonna get the original stuff. And so that's kind of how I was like, okay, if I want to get the one I want, and also not have skinny pants, because for some reason the DB doesn't work with skinny pants.
It doesn't.
It just looks kind of weird. I had to go to vintage, and so I remember going to the set shop, and one of the first times, and I tried on this brown three-piece DB. It's like flannel, and I remember like it was like 300, it was like $400, and I was like, I've never even seen that much money in my life before. And my mom was like, well, that's why you got to become an accountant slash lawyer, because this is like 2013. um and then you'll be able to afford it. And look at me now, I got a brown DB, not in flannel
There you
but in
go.
crisp air. So what about you, Spencer? How was your like, what do you remember when you were like, oh shit, the DB?
Yeah, because it was like, I mean, I also wanted it for like the vintage connotations because again, you look at it and it's not something that you see a lot of guys wearing now, but as you said, it's something that you see so much in like old photographs or old movies,
Yeah.
that it's like, yeah, it's just like immediately like so like I don't know, vintage looking, which is what got me into it originally. And so I got like a couple. I mean, like I don't know the it's like I got like a couple like pretty cheap like bold era double-breasted suits on eBay, um and I bet they would go for a lot more now, but I was able to get them for like under $100, which was great.
Hell yeah.
And then also a couple sport coats. Like the sport coats were the like older ones. I don't think I ever had like a full 1930s like double-breasted suit. But I had a couple 40s or 50s ones, and I had a couple like 30s sport coats. And so the ones that I mean, yeah, the one that I really regret not buying, which we can get into in a second, some of the details, is a double-breasted patch pocket one that I saw at Paper Moon once.
Yeah.
Um, and man, that one was good. But yeah, I've always liked the vintage ones, and I still am pretty picky with double-breasted jackets in terms of proportions, and I want like the
Did the really
vintage
bold ones
style.
like teach you that? Like they're like, oh shit, it doesn't fit the way I want it to because of blank or whatever. Because that's how it
Well,
was for me. Like when I bought, like I remember like buying like a 50s DB, and I'm like, oh, this looks good. I bought it, and as a 50s DB, that thing was long and the buttoning point
Mhm.
was so low, and I'm like, "Fuck
Yeah.
this," you
I
know?
mean, it's like I still don't, like I don't know. I didn't like the like really really crazy like shoulders.
Yeah.
I didn't like something else we'll get into is I like more like I don't know structure and like waist suppression on double-breasted jackets, which you don't always get
Mhm.
with like 40s or 50s ones because those are a lot more I don't know like kind of loose or like tube shape sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it like I don't know. There's just something about ones from like the 1930s or early 40s that are just like the ideal double-breasted jacket. Nothing will ever beat that cut.
Yeah, because it's like it's not too long, and I will have pictures
Hmm.
of like some of our favorite ones in my essay as well. But like like it's not too long. The lapels are really good. Like
Yeah.
not all when we look back, actually, not all of them have like low gorge, but the best ones do. You
Hmm.
do sometimes you do have like a very. I remember having like one of my Palm Beach suits or DBs has like a kind of upturned piece with a very
Yeah.
nice belly compared to like the horizontal one, and that's what I'm saying. Like for some reason, I mean, I'm sure the SBs were kind of fun to do too, but like the DB just has these like kind of fashiony elements to them.
I mean,
I
there's
wish.
it's like a lot more dramatic. Like the whenever I wear mine, like I don't know, you just kind of like feel it. Like you can see the lapels in your peripheral vision, stuff like that. It's just
Yeah,
like
I mean, it's what did you say, Spencer? It's like it's the most like outerwear esque of tailoring,
exactly, yeah.
right? Yeah, it's like a peacoat kind of, right?
Hmm.
And if you're anything like us, aka theater kids or nerds, you'll know that the whole. I mean, peacoats are cool because
Yeah.
it was. I mean, I'm sure we all did it before, right? Where like when you're a kid, you have a peacoat, you're like, oh, I feel like a gangster because all is like it's got big lapels and like double
Hmm.
breasts and stuff. I remember doing that, and I'm like, hell yeah! But you realize it's not a suit jacket because you wear it
Yeah.
with a tie. It's too fussy. There's no breast pocket at all. But it's kind of like that idea of like capturing the drama of outerwear, but in a suit, which is
Hmm.
really one of the things I love about it. And I think I think I went through a phase where like when I got into vintage when dressing was like super I guess costumey for us comparatively to now. I loved wearing DBs. Like I bought the Palm Beach one from
Hmm.
Benny. Every time I would there, I try and find that stuff, and I tried not to wear my SBs too much because it felt too normal. And then when I got into like Ivy, when I started to like become older, I started to work. I wanted to wear the stuff to the office or to my internships or whatever. I'm like, okay, well I can't wear DBs because it's a little too much. And then now when I have like the freedom again, less context going out with friends, it's like I'm going back to like what made me really happy about vintage, about this idea of like I can make my own context, and with it comes like this DB. And I feel like that's kind of why most of the times when we go out we are wearing like DBs, like me, you, John as well.
Hmm.
Andy wears some of my old DB jackets and everything, and it's just so there's just something about it. And I think maybe because we like the details when we're able to execute on it, it's kind of like I mean it's obviously a little bit of a flex, but it is really cool. It's also
Yeah.
practical too, right? Because we like them with patch pockets, right? Like what do you if you could build your DB, what would it look like?
Okay. Well, I think I mean I would just be going like 1930s like novelty style probably. So like double-breasted well, that's a given, I guess, but belt belt back.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe like swelled edges, probably triple patch pockets. Um and I don't know if I wanted to go crazy, I would add a pleat or something to those pockets, but um like four on two triple patch pocket with a fancy back.
that's it. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I love DBs with patch pockets. They just feel it's. I mean, I like patch pockets on everything, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love the either 6 on 2 or 4 on 2.
Mm-hmm.
AKA, do I want decorative buttons or not? I like low gorges. I could take or leave belt backs, but I feel like yeah, it's pretty similar. It's about like kind of the sportswear aspect of it, or sportswear details
Yeah.
on a DB because it's kind of like subverting the weird idea that people get that it's more fancy. Why
Mm-hmm.
do you think that is? Why do you think people like why do
I
people think it's so formal? Is
I
it do you think it's just the peak lapels?
I think yeah, because it's like different and it's like yeah, it's like a lot more going on. It has peak lapels. Maybe if people have like worn one before, they've worn it as like a tuxedo or something, or you know whatever. They've seen it in movies. I think it's yeah, it's just like I said, it's not the default. So if you choose it, then ooh, this guy
This
something's up
guy's
with
got
him.
something intentional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Did I guess were there a lot of DBs in the 70s? I mean, DBs kind of like if we track like their history, right? Like there's a lot of it in like I guess the 20s had some like a proto form of it, with the kind of
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have like the weird notch ones, right?
Yeah,
And then you've got like the 30s and 40s it was cool, and you kind of lose the DB in like the 60s. You do
yeah,
have like what the Japanese call the Newport Blazer, which is like the 4-on-2 sack version with like the slimmer lapels, and then I don't. I kind of feel like you don't really see them in the 70s as much.
I
You
feel like
know,
you still. I mean, maybe you saw him like I don't know the same
you
amount
see
of
like in
people wearing
background stuff,
them.
but yeah,
Yeah, the same amount of people who wore it in the 70s. Well, probably more because more people were wearing suits in general, but same proportion of men wearing suits in the 70s are wearing double-breasted jackets. I feel like I've seen yeah, like you can see like some fancy guys or whatever
oh,
wearing,
that's true. Yeah,
you know, or like I'm picturing some like big pinstripe like double-breasted suits or something.
yeah,
But yeah.
that's true. And then yeah, then of course you have it in the 80s and everything. Yeah, I
Hmm.
remember always being told like it's super fancy, even if I'm not wearing DB in the fancy way. I mean, it's one of those things where people just kind of picked on those details, and
Hmm.
it is kind of tough because I mean it's hard to get people to see like, oh no, this is a soft DB. It's got no shoulder pads. But then people are like, look at you, Mister Fancy Boy, you
Yeah.
know. But then again, like it just looks so elegant. Like I remember, um, there were these two times. I remember seeing the picture of Min Her and Kevin Wang, who the Min Her was the designer behind Herman, which
Hmm.
he just swapped his name there. But they're wearing like these like DBs and like 2013's Jazz Age Lawn Party, and it's like so iconic. Like those two Asian guys with like round frames. One of them is like in a straw fedora.
Hmm.
Back during the dandy days. They look so good. Like that was so iconic to me. That was like one of the first times I saw like a modern DB. That was like actually good. Like it wasn't like an 80s thrift kind of a thing. And I remember early on, like, okay, well, if you want a DB, it's gotta be custom made because they don't they don't make them the way that you want them.
Yeah.
And which is funny because like before I went to my first Dapper Day, I saw a photo of Josh, that guy with his friends and Dylan and all that kind of these guys we would later meet in the vintage scene. And I DM'd one of them. This is so weird, like some fucking like 15-year-old kid DMing these random people. Maybe I wasn't 15, maybe I was like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
But I was like,
That's
hey,
creepy.
like saw your photo on Dapper Day. Um, it where did you get that? Like, did you like buy a pattern for suits? Which I thought I mean, I don't know if you can still do that, but like that's kind of you don't do that.
Yeah,
Like it's not
that's
like
hard
a
to do.
sweater. Um, I was like, hey, did you buy a pattern for this? Like, did you like how many hours did it take you to make it? And he goes like, oh no, this is vintage. About it for like $150. And I'm like, vintage? It exists? And I
Hmm.
don't know if I can include the photo because I don't, these guys aren't people that we're friends with anymore, and whatever. But maybe I'll blur their faces out or I'll crop it. But like, yeah, like it was them out, and like it's like a cream pins, a cream DB, probably Palm Beach or something like that, a pinstripe one, and like a blue one, and I'm like, damn, this is awesome. And I think even then, like I think even vintage collectors love the DB just for the drama of it. They
Yeah,
kind of want to stand out when they're wearing
exactly.
it. Um, but of course, you don't really have to wear it in that way, right? Like you don't have to wear it with a tie, even though like that's kind of what got me into it. You see like Jimmy Stewart wearing the DB, especially in like Philadelphia story, where it's like
Hmm.
the pinstripe DB with like a striped shirt, like a striped tie. One of the iconic ones there. Um, but Spencer, how do you like to wear your DB? Because I know that you wear yours a lot, kind of. When
Yeah.
you brought it out, like what made you stop wearing it for a little bit, and what made you kind of bring it back?
I mean, what made me stop wearing it was mostly that it didn't fit, and then it did fit again. So,
Okay.
um, but yeah, I like to wear mine. I like to wear mine open because I mean, the other thing is they are. as we'll get into later, both true vintage from the 30s. And like I said, one of the things that appeals to me about those jackets is that they were cut with like a really suppressed waist,
Hmm.
which looks really cool, but also isn't the most comfortable to stand or walk around in all the
They
time.
also didn't have vents,
Yeah, no
so
vents
it's
either. So
yeah,
it is kind of restrictive. So I like to wear mine open. Like I said, I really like the dramatic effect that you get with like an open double-breasted jacket. Just all the buttons, the super wide lapels,
yeah.
all that stuff. I think is really good. So as we'll get into, casual is the way to wear it.
That's right. I mean, it was kind of cool to see, to see people wearing them again with like Pity Womo, the Armory, etc., wearing like Ring
Hmm.
Jacket. Of course, all of like the bespoke tailors who would go right, like the British ones, like Anderson and Shepherd soft shoulders, and the like the sharp Edward Sexton ones, and you've got like, then you've got the Japanese guys, you got the Italian tailors as well,
Hmm.
obviously. But I think, yeah, there's something about it when it's worn with like a t-shirt or when it's worn casually, because it becomes more like like outerwear, like casual outerwear, like a chore coat,
Yeah.
like a chore blazer is fun, and then you got like the DB. It's just kind of, you just kind of treat it the same way,
Hmm.
you know. I to answer my own question here, I guess I did say that I stopped wearing DBs for a little bit, with vintage, and of course it's harder to get them modern even now, right? Like Ring Jacket doesn't make too many DBs, at least in an accessible way, like the Armory would have. I don't have $1,500 to spend on a single jacket. But
Yeah.
then now that I'm able to kind of, now that I know what I can wear it with, um, I do like wearing it casually. There's just something about like wearing it with like a t-shirt, kind of contrasting, like, I mean, or maybe playing into like the higher closure of it. You know what I mean? Like with the because the lapels will overlap and close higher than like a single breasted jacket, but then wearing that with like a t-shirt is kind of fun to kind of mimic like the high
Hmm.
neck, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I
but
mean
I also don't wear my jackets, the DBs. The thing is, you don't have to wear it closed all the time.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
got
I
yeah.
really we've talked about this with just like suits and sport coats in general, but especially with double-breasted jackets, it's so cool to see it just worn as like a regular jacket. Um, I mean, I really I want more in my collection, but I don't have a lot of money now because I pay for groceries and rent. But I mean, seeing like like Henrik or whatever on Instagram, uh, like he's one of the he's one of the guys that got me to be like, okay, yeah, you could just wear this like the double breasted jacket all the time, and it's just like it's just a jacket. It's just anything else.
Yeah, his hands are in his pockets.
Hmm.
I mean, for me, some of the my iconic guys, like not just Henrik, but like Ethan Newton, right, wearing his like Anderson and his Dalcaware stuff that he's,
Yeah.
it kind of looks pretty vintage. Like, yeah, he looks great, but like wearing it with like rayon shirts, like, oh, it seems very like the Hep Cat stuff, like the jazz
Hmm.
people in like the late 40s, wearing those like open shirts with the DBs, or even like the Esquire Man stuff is really cool. Esquire Man has
Hmm.
a lot of DBs drawn very well. I mean, again, to me, it's like I want that figure, but with a softer shoulder,
Yeah.
you know. But again, even though I like it casually, and I still probably wear it more often casually than I do formally now, just because my contact's a little bit different. The main guy was always Jake Grantham, man.
Hmm.
Like he just, I mean, I think for me, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but like a lot of guys like Prince Charles, right? The tall, lanky guy wearing suits. I
Uh-huh.
don't, the Royals suck, and I'm not British at all. But for me, Jake Grantham kind of fulfills that kind of lanky,
He's the
messy
menswear
haired British guy.
royal.
I mean, he also is like the guy who like popularized like pocket. I mean, at least to me, pocket fisting, right?
Hmm.
And for pocket fisting, historically, you have two guys. You have Agnelli, right, Gian Agnelli, and then you've got Prince Charles. And so for me, it's Jake Grantham. But he wore it so well. It was kind of proof that you can wear it without it looking too corporate. Because I think I was always scared of that, right? Like again, when you look at it historically, you either look like a gangster or you look like a fucking corporate ass finance guy, at least from like the 80s or 90s. And so I was like, I want to do that, but in my own way, and then take it out and bring those vibes into casual stuff. So like
Hmm.
now, um, I wear it a lot with like, yeah, t-shirts, open shirts, and like jeans, because I feel like when I wear those things with a sport coat, I feel a little too biz cas, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
think the DB adds that extra layer of drama that makes it a little bit more interesting, um, more dynamic, and still feels like I'm nodding towards something vintage, you know? And it could be now that maybe we just like, oh, we're just doing Miami Vice now, you know, these DBs just open. Um, but I think that there is a vibe. I mean, look at like the Armani stuff, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you have like those guys like on the beach or what, like those old like black or sepia tone photos of like a guy rolled, like the pants are like rolled up. It's like on the beach wearing with like a t-shirt or a tank top or something with like an overcoat on top of that, because that's just how it is in
Yeah.
old ads. Um, but yeah. But what? How else do you like to wear your DB? Or do you ever like talk about uniform stuff? Right? Do you ever think that you're pulling the same ideas when you do the
Yeah, I
DB?
do.
You
I
kind
mean,
of do. You
I
kind of
do the
do.
same thing. It's just like you could swap out a single-breasted jacket for any of my double-breasted jackets, and it would work the
But you
same.
choose to do it.
But I choose to do it because, yeah, because it's just something a little bit extra, I guess. And it's like I said, it despite, I don't know. I think even though most people would say, oh, this is a more formal jacket, it can look more casual,
Yeah.
than the single breasted jacket. But yeah, I mean, I just like wearing mine with like, jeans and a work shirt. How I like wearing my sport coat. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's just so easy to throw on. I mean, that's why proportions kind of matter a lot with a
Mm-hmm.
DB. Like I think, we talk about a lot about like how it needs to fit close, a little bit like waist suppression, but I do think it also needs to fit. There has to be a drape to it that makes it easy to
Exactly.
kind of throw on, like a kind of
Yeah.
balancing the two. Like I think that an SB can be kind of shapeless with like the sack jacket, which a sack jacket isn't really a shapeless either. It's just there's just no darting to it.
Mm-hmm.
But with a DB, I feel like you just get it made bigger with like broader shoulders. That way, when you wear it overlapped, you kind of cheat that effect with like the
Yeah.
waist. I mean, there. I'm sure you could get like, yeah, the real drape thing is having like the big chest, and you have like the sharp dart that goes through the body and gives you the hourglass figure. But when you're not doing a bespoke thing, the cheating way is to just, okay, I want the chest this big, the waist this a bit smaller, and then the hips
Mm-hmm.
even bigger, to kind of achieve that effect.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely, I think I prefer to have my DBs worn made a little bit bigger so I can wear it, because even with SBs, you just don't want anything to be too tight. Tight
Uh-huh.
doesn't really feel comfortable or slouchy to me, and a DB when it's worn bigger, when it's made a little bit bigger, has that. But you can't get it too long, which is why I haven't been one of those guys to like. I know that like on TikTok and sometimes in our Discord, guys are like going through buying like old Armani, which is great. But I think the issue there is the jackets are just too long and the buttoning point's just too low, and I feel like
Yeah.
you play into the drama too much and it comes off a little bit. I guess it's not affected because it's inherent to the garment, but it just doesn't come off in the right way. Which is why I think when you wear it, Spencer, I think it's really cool because you're wearing literally like a 30s or 40s
Mm-hmm.
DB. But like if you didn't say that, I wouldn't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it
I
just.
mean, I think we're jumping ahead, I guess, a little bit talking about the ones that we own, but the blue one that I have, like that if I could get something replicated, like it might have to be that because it's a true vintage like double-breasted jacket but with like a natural shoulder. Like it doesn't have the crazy like bold shoulders that like most of them do. Um
Yeah.
which is so great. But yeah.
Yeah, and then you wear it all the time, and you wear it with like the jeans, you wear it with like the military
Mhm.
chinos and everything like that. Do you Here's something I thought of. Do you like to wear like bolder shirts with your DBs? Because I know I do that because I feel like it closes it. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Okay. I like
it
the
kind of
idea.
calms it down.
I do like that idea, but the issue is I don't own many bold shirts. Um,
Yeah.
it's whenever you look through my closet, it's a lot of solids, and a lot of them are blue or
Or brown.
or brown. So I'd have. I mean, I do like wearing like my bolder shirts. So I have that like 40s or 50s silk western shirt. I have my like Groove and High shirt and a couple other random whatever's like Madras or
Yeah.
like plaid button downs. Um, I do like wearing them, and if I had more bold shirts, I probably would do that more.
Yeah, I know. Like I like whenever I wear my Groove and High shirt, I love wearing it with the DB because I feel like it just makes sense. Like I feel like an SB, it's like you're not playing into it as much, but
Mm,
the DB kind of helps. And to your point, I think I've been wearing my DB out a lot. Like if I'm gonna wear a sport coat out, it's been in the DB. I don't think maybe it's because it's newer compared to the other stuff in my closet I've had for such a longer time. Like like my tweed sacks, or like like I mean I did have a whole summer of me wearing like that houndstooth wool silk linen jacket a lot, but the DB, whether it's my brass button one, my navy crisper that I'm going to be wearing today, or the
hmm.
brown crisper that I just got that's fucking awesome, like I there's just something about it that just works with like everything that I want to do, and I think other people can kind of get it, so I kind of play into that as well. It just makes more sense to wear it when you're going out.
Yeah.
um and Yeah, it's just it's if you're gonna be wearing suits or tailoring and you don't want to look corporate, if that's not what your goal is, it's kind of easy to do with a DB, which is why like when Stofa, right, made their first like suit, right, it
Yeah.
was it was like a play on the DB. It wasn't like a proper one. It had like ulster uh an ulster lapel. Like it wasn't like a peak. It was just like the kind of like the ones you see on
Hmm.
like an ulster overcoat or like a pea coat kind of a thing, on like a 4-on-2, and then yeah,
No
made of like their
pocket.
peach cotton. Yeah, well, no breast pocket, just two
Yeah.
patch pockets. And then they do it that way. I think it kind of makes sense, like their idea of like what this suit, this like not a corporate matching pair. I think that's what it is, because I feel like nowadays when guys are wearing suits, or when designers are doing it, it's either the work suit done in like kind of like a fun fabric, like a chore blazer or
Yeah.
whatever, or it's a DB. And it's kind of like Noah, right? Like they made a DB suit, right? Same thing. There's no fucking breast pocket, but I think people can kind of get this idea where like, you know what, we don't want to wear like the default. We want to wear the fun version of it, and that's why I think even like Anglo Italian, right? Like they have like that weird curve to their lapel, that
Yeah.
weird like thing that comes down, like kind of looks like a shawl combined with like a peak lapel. Um, And so because of like that kind of energy surrounding the way the DB works, I mean, you even have like the Gucci, like there's like a Gucci or a Prada DB where a guy's wearing it with like an A-line tank and like a trucker hat. It's funny that fashion right now is kind of coming back to this idea of the DB as like the fun suit.
I just
And
wish that they would
yeah,
actually leave the breast pocket on. I think
yeah,
maybe this is like a I don't know. This is gonna make me sound boring, but most of the time, if you're doing like a take on like, oh, this is a fun take on a work jacket, or a fun take on a double breasted jacket, I'd rather just do the original well. um, I never, I'm not one who enjoys, who like looks for like fun takes on like on stuff.
yeah. I
I
mean,
like taking an original and doing my own fun take with it. But
well, I mean, yeah,
yeah,
we're talking about doing our fun take by styling it, not by designing it.
exactly. Yeah.
That's kind of where it's at. Um, but yeah, I don't know, like the breast pocket is kind of important. I mean, I like breast pockets in general. We'll have a whole episode on the breast
Yeah.
pocket or something, or episode on pocket squares
Pockets.
maybe.
Just an
Because I've
episode. I
been.
think we could do an episode on pocket squares and an episode on pockets.
That's right. I mean, hey, like you pointed out recently too, we're like, oh, I'm not wearing a pocket squares a lot lately.
Yeah.
Kind of just rocking it out there. Um, but even when I'm wearing it casually, I do like the idea of wearing it with like the Esquire man way, striped shirt, foulard tie. You know, I think again, whenever I wear the DB, I feel like it gives me permission to be bold,
Hmm.
not just because the jacket is bold, but because it's like I can, again, like I said earlier, with like with the bold shirts, I can close it up easily. You know, so like I have like this red plaid shirt, like OCBD, which is kind of fun to wear with like SBs. But I feel like when I wear it with an SB, I feel like a little too Christmassy. But when I wear it with a DB, it feels a little bit more sporty. But like I'm calming it down because you can't see all of the plaid shirt. All you
Yeah.
see it with is like the collar area. So I kind of like that. And if we're talking about shirts, I mean the spear point collar like works really well with a DB. I mean, like the lines of the collar kind of follow
Mm-hmm.
the lines of the overlapping lapels.
It's perfect. It's meant
It's
for each
it's
other.
designed for it. This hole was designed for me. You should read that horror story. Read it. You should. Oh, you can
You
look
can
at it
read it,
because
but you can
it's
also look at it.
Yeah, it's a manga. But yeah, you talked about your DBs.
Yeah,
Would you so you want do you want to get them? You want to get one made? You should
I
get
want
like an
to.
Atelier Fugue
I would
one.
love to get one, an Atelier Fugue one. But yeah, let me. So I'll run through mine really quick, just because I only have two. But I have one that comes from a full suit. So it's a suit that I mostly just wear the jacket by itself. But
Yeah.
I do have the pants. But that is, I just based on the details, I'm assuming it's either like a costume suit or like just a wartime fabric ration suit, because
Okay.
the pants don't have any cuffs or pleats, which you would normally see in the 40s. It's like a really simple like sleeve construction. You know how most of the time with like jacket sleeves, even if it doesn't have functioning buttons, it's still kind of constructed that way. It has the overlapping whatever. I'm not a
Yes.
tailor,
Yes.
I don't know how to describe any of this. But the jacket that I have just has like tube sleeves. It's just like a tube, with the buttons just kind of like sewn on the side.
Okay. Yeah.
um,
That does sound like a costuming or
and
a
then like I and
ration
like I
thing.
said, it has like softer shoulders than a lot of other stuff, so there's not too much padding,
Yeah.
which I really like. And then it's got like kind of a patriotic like red and blue stripe, which also seems very like
Oh, it's like a
wartime.
multi-stripe kind of a thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty subtle, but I mean, you could see it in photos. And I used to be like more weird. It's like, oh, I don't want to wear a striped jacket, as a separate, but I don't really care anymore. I think it looks cool. And then my other one, which I also like, that's one of the coolest things I think I own. Is like a 30s, like, mid to late 30s, double breasted jacket in a like really, really wide herringbone. And I just love that. I have a single breasted suit in a not as wide herringbone, but similar like 30s like tweed thing. And I just really love the pattern of it. I think like it fits really well, like that wide herringbone fits really well with a lot of the workwear and western stuff in my wardrobe. It has really,
That feels like
really
outerwear right there. Like a
exactly.
herringbone
And
jacket.
yeah, and it has a really great like a really great, I mean, you don't really see this if you're wearing it, but like a really nice kind of like peach or like salmon, whatever, like silk lining. That's just, I think, such a great contrast to like the gray.
The gray.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, really dramatic lapels. And I just like I said, it's like a really heavy fabric, so it's hard to wear in Southern California, but it drapes really well. And I just love that thing. And maybe what I would do is if I got a double breasted jacket made, I would take like the lapels from the herringbone one, but the overall like structure and shoulders
Yeah,
from
I
the
got a
navy one.
Frankenstein this
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
I mean that's the whole joy of menswear with custom
Hmm.
menswear.
But like I said, I want more. Like I want the navy with the brass buttons. I really want a white one. I know that like the Ralph Lauren polo one pops up on eBay every once in a while, and I think I've missed out on like maybe one or two in my size, but usually
Yeah.
they're not my size. Um, but if any of you sees that particular polo Ralph Lauren white double-breasted jacket with patch pockets, sometimes it has a fancy back, sometimes it doesn't. Please
Did I
send it
tell
my
you
way.
Young Chomsky is selling his, but it's too small for him.
Okay, so it's probably not going to fit me.
But it might
In my
fit me.
okay,
And it's because I have the Palm Beach one. But before I go into mine, I mean maybe talk really quick about your preferences here. So you wrote here that
yeah,
you like structure on some of
yeah,
this stuff.
yeah. I don't like a super soft or like I said,
You can go to hell.
shapeless
It's okay.
shapeless double-breasted jacket, just because again I think the appeal from the double-breasted jacket kind of comes from the structure, like the padded out like shoulders and chest, not necessarily like huge, but like even my navy double-breasted one, like I said, it's not a
Yeah.
completely soft shoulder but a natural shoulder, and it still kind of has some like drape in the chest, which gives you the really great like wasp waist, like suppressed figure, which I
Yeah.
think looks really good when you're wearing it open or closed, because you still, with those jackets, you still definitely get the waist suppression even when it's worn open.
Yep.
Um, I like the really wide lapels with like horizontal peaks, or like a fish mouth lapel, which my herringbone one has. and then yeah, like I said, like other details that you see a lot on vintage jackets, just like the wide set buttons, swelled edges, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, no narrow lapels, especially. I think the lapels are the most important thing for me with double breasted jackets.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like relative, right? Because like I don't like the really skinny ones, but I do kind of like the '60s ones, like the
Hmm.
Newport one, and especially like the early '30s sportswear ones, where like it doesn't go like they're still horizontal, but they don't go super wide. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm reminded of my. I mean, I've owned. So for me, I've owned a lot of DBs because again, I love them so much. I would buy. I had to stop myself from buying like the odd jackets because it was like again, like Spencer said, it was early on. It's hard to be like, oh, striped odd jacket's kind of weird, especially like
Hmm.
if you had like my I never had a plain navy suit, even vintage. Like it was always like it had like a weird shadow stripe to it. So I was like, oh, I can't wear a brown pinstripe jacket with blue striped pants. I probably still wouldn't today, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's something I do keep in mind. Um, but yeah, like Spencer, I think I like not structure, but I like shape to my DBs. But again, it's cheated. Like I like it to be full, but relative, like again, proportional. So again, I make the chest big and the hips big, but then you make the waist small. Like that's just kind of how it works. I do love
Hmm.
a wide shoulder on it. I could give or take structure on that, but I definitely like softer stuff just because I have kind of like I don't I my thing is I have a figure. And so for my figure to feel constrained into a garment that has a figure feels odd to me. So I like it to
Hmm.
be a little bit shapeless because I like to move around. And the thing is, it sounds like, oh, I like shapeless clothing, but I feel like when you look at it, you can like I don't look shapeless in it. You know what I'm saying? You can see my body. But that's kind of me.
Yeah.
Um, I do again, like I said, like the lapels. They can be not super skinny, but I don't mind it if they're not like fucking runaway giant lapels. I don't really mind that. I do think again, if we're I do like the old Polo RL ones that are really nice, the horizontal ones.
Yeah.
Um, I do like the Newport ones as well. But yeah, for me, I also like a longer length in my jackets, which I did talk about in the proportion article. I know we said that they don't have to be as long as SBs, which is true. But for me, that's like at most half an inch. And I kind of want them to be not too marketably different. And because I want to wear them closed and open. They just have to be the right length. As in, you can't see my crotch at all. I don't
Yeah.
like seeing my crotch when
No
my
one see
jacket's
my
closed.
crotch.
But I've owned a lot of them over the years. I had like a gray. I'll have a picture of it for my um. Remember my feature on articles of style. I wore my gray belt back that
Yeah.
I think I sold to a vintage guy.
Oh,
Yeah, I
you
did
know
it.
what? Really quick, you know what one I really wish I still had?
What
I really wish I still had that flannel '70s pinstripe one.
I remember that one, but you
Yeah.
tapered the pants too much, I think, or something
I
like that, right?
probably, but I don't know. Maybe I could fix that. But that was. I want to wear that like casually. I want to wear a gray pinstripe suit casually, really bad.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, but yeah, I had that gray belt back one. I've had a lot of odd jackets. I think Andy still owns some of my odd jackets, the vintage ones. Um, but my first modern one was like this Suit Supply one, and I remember this. It was like 2013. I knew what I wanted from it, and by that I mean I knew I wanted wide lapels and wide set buttons,
Hmm.
and I ended up buying two from Suit Supply back in 2013 before they got all. I mean, I guess they weren't. I guess they could have been sexy back then too. I don't know, but I got a blue cotton linen,
Yeah.
which so it had like a heathered effect to it, and then I got a khaki DB, which was actually a 6 on 2, but it
Hmm.
was the buttons were done vertically, like they didn't have like the I guess the nipple buttons weren't splayed out like normal. Which something you also got to pay attention to that because you don't like some cheap DBs you see on like eBay or whatever. The nipple buttons are way too far. Like
Yeah.
the angle is just off.
Need to be careful with that.
Yeah. But my issue with DBs, and I think I'm sure Spencer is running through this now, where because they're vintage and they're heavy, you can't
Yeah.
wear them in spring summer. And so I think for me, as I got more comfortable being in LA, I just didn't wear my DBs because of how hot they were. So like I got rid of like my shadow stripe DB. I got rid of the belt back one, and I also got rid of the navy blue flannel DB, the one that was still really good, that stuck with me through the pandemic, because I still wore it a little bit, but I ended up getting rid of it because I just didn't wear it as much,
Mm.
because it's just too heavy. I want something I can wear all the time. And so, my first ever navy DB in a modern fabric was a rain jacket, the rain jacket blazer in balloon with the brass buttons, which was really great. I love that thing. Um, I think it's my second ever ring jacket purchase, second or third
Mm.
only, and I only have like four, so it's not that there's not too many of them in there. But that was like the one of the first like modern ones that I got that wasn't like the Suit Supply ones, and I love that thing. I wear it. I wore that literally, like that's like one of the things of the pandemic. I wore that a lot. Spencer said there's a whole
Yeah.
article and it's a whole episode on the blazer, and I talk about how much I love it. But that was my always my issue, right? Like I think I ended up buying the green hop sack DB, also from Ring Jacket as
That's
well,
right.
from Job 93, which was great. Um, and then I also got a green DB from Atelier Fugue in the cotton one, which looks kind of like 30 Sportswear. I got it with flapped patch pockets and a patch breast pocket, 4-on-2 with swelled edges. Really love that thing. Um, and that's cotton, which is cool because it's like I want it to be like 30 Sportswear. But the first ever, like, the thing I've always wanted, the blue DB suit in a summer appropriate fabric, came from Hall Madden, and I
Mm.
love that shit. I mean, again, Spencer seen it too. I wear that suit all the time. I'm sure people on Instagram see that all the time. Um, there's just something about like the full cut of pants going into like a very nicely shaped jacket,
Yeah.
that again evokes that idea of like those Escarment illustrations, the Cary Grant stuff, the Jimmy Stewart. Just, I mean, not that I'm trying to dress like them, but like it's the vibe is just there. Like where the DB again is like simultaneously slouchy and dramatic and powerful all at the same time. That you could probably get from like a nice single breasted suit too. But there's just something about the suit where it's just so good. And where I think, DB odd jackets are great. I still wear them a lot. But when you wear it with a tie, I think the DB looks best like with the full suit.
Yeah.
Like it's just so good. And I'm so glad I got it with the blue DB. And then, fast forward like 3 months later, when I saved up some money again, got it in brown, like, which is like the ultimate thing of like, it's like a powerful, dramatic, slouchy garment, but in a casual color, which was really great. And I loved it there. And as I'm saying this, I did place an order for another one. Well, with the Atelier Fugue, because it's a cotton one, so it wasn't as expensive
Yeah.
as Hall Madden, but I'm getting a khaki DB,
That's
which
right.
is something I've also wanted. Um, and of course, I do have the Palm Beach. I have the Palm Beach white one that I just don't wear, and I should honestly wear that thing more often because it's
You
awesome.
should. It's beautiful.
Um, I should wear it like casually too.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where Palm Beach is a very delicate fabric that I don't want to get damaged, and because it's rare. And I mean, it's like at this point I've sunk the money into it, right? Like it's either I'm gonna get pennies back because no one really is into buying vintage suits as much as they used to.
Hmm.
And if you damage Palm Beach or stain it, then the
It's hard.
value immediately
Yeah.
goes down. So, but yeah, I also have I have two. I have the Palm Beach DB suit, and then I have one of my first ever vintage purchases, like I said, that I mentioned earlier at the top here. Um, is the Palm Beach DB odd jacket that I got from
Hmm.
Benny. That is, I'm pretty sure that's kind of stained and the collar is kind of torn. There's probably like some holes somewhere, but I love that thing. To me, that was like, again, one of the first ones I got that was kind of summer appropriate, and kind of like cotton. So you can kind of, I mean, that one I can kind of beat up because it's just so great.
And so
Um,
timid, you could do whatever you want to it. You could just beat that thing up, and it'll give you its lunch money.
that's right. Yeah. What
Yeah.
a fucking sniveling worm. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just
So
like a little.
pathetic.
Yeah. did you listen to the Comedy Bang Bang episode with the
No.
Oh, you don't know that? I'll
No,
tell you
I
about
don't
it
know about the
afterwards.
sniveling worm.
Yeah, I'll tell
Really
you about it
quick,
later.
how do you feel about like patterned double-breasted jackets? Like not just like
Ooh,
striped ones, but like plaid. Like
good thing to bring up
check.
right before we close here.
Yeah.
I'm I go back and forth. I think
Mm.
it's like one of those things where like I like, again, to me, the somber idea of like one solid color overlapping fabric. It's just so cool. The pinstripe one, like it depends on the aesthetic, right? So the pinstripe plays into like the kind of gangster or like finance
Mhm.
aesthetic, but plaid, I'm like, I'm not Mordecai, I'm not Johnny Depp and
Yeah.
Mordecai here, I'm
Yeah,
not fucking
I saw a
Hannibal.
picture of like a it's like an old photo from the 40s, but someone wearing like a brown tweed double-breasted like plaid jacket. And even listen, not every old photo, not every vintage inspiration photo is good. But I was looking at that and I'm like, man, I in theory that might work, but I don't like it. I do really like Prince of Wales check.
That's true. Like I was say,
Yeah.
in like a gray or like a tannish brown, I feel like that's
Hmm.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, it's like in general, like I mean, we don't really wear patterned single-breasted suits,
Hmm.
but if it's done tastefully, I think it'd be fine. I think like a brown houndstooth, like a dark brown houndstooth would be kind of cool, or like
Yeah.
a gray houndstooth
I
as
know I've
well
seen
would be nice.
houndstooth ones in like the 30s and 40s that look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, but for me, I'd rather go bold in color, like solid color, than I would before I would go pattern. I mean, I would eventually own both if I had unlimited money, but for me, I'd rather have like a solid brown, blue, solid gray. Like I think like even like a lavender DB would be kind of sick, but like it would be solid. Like I wouldn't do like a lavender check. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You can't get too crazy with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if you guys really want to get into this, I mean, like, watch old movies. I think that's kind of one of the best ways. But like
Absolutely.
illustrations, old photos, like you see, I mean, guys are wearing them open too. Like I know this, we had this idea at the top, right? Where oh, it's so corporate, it's so formal, but like guys just kind of wore it back then. I mean,
Yeah. And I
that's how they did everything, but like with the DB specifically.
we said that it's like, oh, the double-breasted jacket kind of like sets you apart, but I've been watching a lot of like Criterion and HBO have a bunch of like
Ah,
pre-code
yes.
pre-code comedies right now. So that is like pre 1934. And man, like guys in the late 20s and early 30s could not get enough of double-breasted jackets. It's like you can go through the movie and like count on one hand the number of characters, the number of like men in the movie who are not wearing double-breasted jackets.
Yeah.
But it seems like yeah, back then it was just like that was just like the suit that he wore. That was like what was in style. Everyone wore them.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad that nowadays, people perceive it to be a little bit too extra. But I think the tides are changing.
Mm-hmm.
Even on Reddit, like Puma Turtle, who Spencer met, um, it's
Yeah.
he wears a lot of the Drake's DBs. I mean, I remember when Drake started making DBs. I think it looks really cool. The games jacket's really awesome. If you want like a casual take that looks kind of like a DB's take on work or a workwear take on a DB, with like the kind of heavy stitching and the big pockets. I think it looks really good. I think I mean Jake Grantham is a good example of like the somber DBs. The Armory just came out. I mean, not it came out at the time of recording, but like the Model 16, which looks very 30s sportswear, big patch pockets, 4-on-2, no vent, which whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but but yeah, I mean they look really good. Um, BN Taylor, one of the best
Yeah.
DBs out there, that looks really good. Like the lapels look like 30s, 40s, or even like polo. You also have Sartoria Del Cuore through Bryceland's has a really good DB. But all these guys, I mean, all the big menswear guys wear DBs, and I think it's just proof that you don't have to put it into one category, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of the theme of how you and I wear it, Spencer. We're like, I mean, at least when you look at both of us, like I can wear it in like the yuppie way, I can wear it in the Esquire Man way, I wear it with like the Armani way, with like the casual knitwear, and then you've got it with like jeans and stuff. I mean, John and I wear it with like our raw hems and
Yeah.
cowboy boots and Chelsea boots and rayon shirts. I'm wearing a DB today. Not Spencer
Ooh.
knows I'm lying, but because you can see me, but I will be wearing it today with like a pair of like fun pants. I mean, during the summer, I wear it with like easy pants. Because it's like there's just something about this damn garment that just makes you feel so good, so cool, and it looks cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're wearing it with like, I mean, I've worn mine with sweatpants, with drawstring pants. I've worn it with like shorts also. Like it's like it just goes with everything and retains like the feeling of like whatever you put on with it. Like again, it can feel as easy as like a chore coat,
Yeah.
but it's not that. It has the drama of a pea coat, but it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just. if you haven't been sold on it, then you're a fucking loser. Get with the fucking times.
Yeah,
The time of the DB
is upon
is
us.
now. Is upon us. Yeah, that's the title of the episode right there. It took us
Yeah,
an hour and 10 minutes to come up with the
but
title,
we got
and
it,
there it
and that's
is.
why we get paid the big bucks. Speaking
That's
of
right. Speaking of,
Patreon,
guys, we love you guys. Thank you for supporting us. Again, this is like what our start of our third year of viewing the Patreon. Yeah, we started this in 2020. So,
damn,
I mean, well, it's third year in terms of years, but I think it's like our second
second
full
year.
year. Yeah.
Yes.
But we appreciate you guys for joining us again. This wouldn't be possible without all of you guys. Not just contributing money, but like the discussions in our Patreon are always really great. There's a lot of DB talk there, and we'll talk with them again. If you guys are on twitch.tv/down direction, you can talk with us more, some extended DB commentary on our Thursday streams.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, go to patreon.com/down direction, access to our Discord, access to our library of bonus episodes which talk about movies and pop culture stuff we don't get time for the main feed here. We also have our Sadcast fanatics, our top tiers, that give us a little bit extra, and we thank them. That's all they get, and that's enough
That's
for
all they
them.
get.
But thank you to Austin Malat, Shane Curry, Philip Regard, Jarrett Colian, and Henrik Wilberg. We appreciate you guys for being top tier patrons. Um, Follow us on Instagram. Follow Sound Direction. We post some fun images there.
Mm-hmm.
Follow me at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And thank you to MJ for producing the podcast. We're everywhere. Look around. We're right behind you.
Oh man,
That's
how
right.
did I get here?
It's the multiverse. I think at this point, did the multiverse of madness open? I think it did. So
Yeah, we opened the multiverse of madness.
yeah, I'm looking up right now. Multiverse of Madness release date. Let's see if I was right here. Oh shit, May 6th. Yeah, so as of now, we're everywhere, baby.
Yeah,
This episode will this is it. The
this is
multiverse of DBs.
the
How about the
multiverse of
DB of
DBs.
Madness? How about the DB of Madness?
How about the
That's
multiverse of madness, the badness?
the baby?
Yeah, the baby.
The multiverse of the baby. I don't want to live in that world, actually.
Neither do I.
Pull me out.
But
We'll see you
unfortunately,
guys
we
in
do.
the next one.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.